So I was really on the fence as to whether I would pick up one of these. This of course is Xiaomi's Mi A2, and it's exactly the same hardware as the Mi 6X that I reviewed. So I'm not going to be in this video covering the hardware in detail like I did with that video. Please refer to that video if you want more in-depth information and detail about the actual hardware, because I'm not going to be like those OnePlus 6 and iPhone guys that when there's a new color, they review the whole phone all over again, 10-15 minute video just for a new color, as if anything else changed. And it's the same case here, so nothing else has changed. They didn't decide to change their mind, Xiaomi, and go, oh, hang on, let's give the Mi A2 a micro SD card slot and a 3.5mm headphone jack. No, they didn't do that. So the specs, you're probably familiar with them if you've seen my 6X video. Snapdragon 660, which is a mid-range chipset, and it does perform really quite well in my testing. It's a good chipset. I do like it. We've got dual cameras on the rear, so one is 12 megapixels, the other is 20. Now that 20 megapixel camera does do some pixel binning with the low light photos, and it's basically like an auto detect system they have set up. So when it detects the camera, both of the cameras on the rear, that it's low light scenario, then it will switch to that 20 megapixel sensor. Selfie cam at the front is also 20 megapixels. So let's check out here the Mi A2 with Android One. So I have here the global version. It is factory sealed. I got this one from Gear Vita, which is a new Chinese retailer that I am testing out. And they shipped this one here with DHL. So that's why I got it quite quick. It's actually being sold locally and will be out on, I think it's the 16th this month. Here in Spain, you can pick it up. And also in India, it's going to be out on the 16th. My version is the 4GB of RAM, 64GB ROM. So remember to choose wisely depending on what kind of use you have of your phone, because if you're someone that has a huge music collection, remember, no expandable storage on this. So we have right here at the top, I know from experience from the 6X that this is a case that it will come with, and there's a user guide, the adapter for Type-C to 3.5mm headphone jack, and then the SIM tray tool. So it will take 2 nano SIMs, and the TPU case they give you right here, which is one of those transparent style gray ones. And it does do the job. And it's good to see that a lot of manufacturers are now putting cases in the box with these phones that are very easy to scratch and damage. So then we have the phone right there, of course, Type-C cover, and then our charger. Now this, of course, is an EU charger because I have the global version and it is the European version. Now the maximum output of this is 5 volts 2 amps. So it's not actually using Qualcomm's Quick Charge 3, but in my experience with the 6X, it will fully charge the phone in just over 2 hours, so it's still very, very quick. Now the phone only has a 3500 mAh battery, which is rather small. They should have gone with 4000 if you ask me, but it is light, only 168 grams. So the A2 is a thin mobile phone. You can see right here it's 7.5 millimeters. But it has this hideous massive camera bump that sticks out an extra couple of millimeters, bringing the thickness up, if you measure it with that, to 9 millimeters. Next to the Redmi Note 5, it's very noticeable the difference there with those cameras, how much it actually sticks out on the 6X. Now with the Redmi Note 5, we've got at the top here plastic. We've got antenna lines on this one, and the unibody build is of a much higher standard, much better quality. Metal buttons on the right hand side that do not rattle around, and they have a good feel to them. The front camera with an f2.0 aperture, 20 megapixels. This one here does actually take your selfie shots with the blurred background, so the bokeh effect, portrait mode if you will, and it does a pretty good job of stitching that up. And there is also a selfie flash which is located just here. Then down the bottom you can just make out the antenna lines here. They're a little bit more prominent on the other colors, but with the black you don't see it as much. We've got what looks like two loudspeakers, but is in fact just one. So the loudspeaker, microphone, and then of course the Type-C port. And the only physical difference from this to the 6X I reviewed from looking on the outside is this right here. It's going to say Android One on the back. So in hand, the phone feels good. It's a 5.99 inch screen that they do have on this, which of course is 18:9 or 2:1 aspect ratio. So this cover on the front, that's just of course for transit, so this screen's not going to get damaged or anything like that, so you just have to pull this off. And I may as well show you what it looks like in the case, because I know a lot of people don't actually do this. So you get a bit of a lip around here, so it is going to cover the screen. So if you put it face down, the screen then should not get scratched. And you'll see that it is also covering up that camera
So that's also giving that some added protection there. All in all, of course, the case fits perfectly. It's coming from the manufacturer. You've got the cutouts there for all the ports and everything. And it's not bad for a freebie, or should I say an included case. Oh, and that user guide, if you're wondering, yes, it's all in English, even though it's a Chinese phone. Up the top, you'll find a secondary microphone, and yes, there is an IR transmitter, so at least they did keep one thing. So powering it up now for the first time, of course, we get the Android One boot screen. Haptic feedback, of course, there is a haptic motor in there. And we just have to go through our standard setup. So this screen is Full HD Plus, of course, because it's like a 1080p screen, but just stretched out a little bit taller here. So this is just like a stock Android setup, because that's exactly what it is running. Stock Android, like those other budget phones that I sometimes review. But I'll skip this part here, and we'll go straight into the ROM. And so here we go. The UI stock. Android, completely stock. So this is the Xiaomi mobile to get for people that could never stand MIUI. You didn't like it. And I'll admit, I never liked MIUI in the beginning. And I've learned to like it. I've gotten used to it. And I like some of the features and extras it does have, of course, that you're going to be missing now with this. So we'll have a look at the stock apps we have installed. So Google, of course, have crammed in quite a few things there. Xiaomi has 2 apps. So we've got Mi Store, Mi Community, and really that is about it. Now they could have probably lightened this up a little, but really this is not bad at all. Now what I thought would be interesting and a little bit different was to take a look more at the differences between stock Android and say MIUI on this same exact screen here. Now you notice straight away that the calibration of these two panels is very different. So out of the box, I'm going to have to go with Google, with Android. Stock Android, the way they've calibrated the screen here seems a lot better to me, because this is the default on standard. And then on standard, the screen looks a little bit more correct. But out of the box, I think it's on automatic contrast. And it always tends to have a blue tint to it. Hopefully you can see that coming through. But one thing you are missing that I do particularly like here is that, of course, you've got this customization here. You can tweak the colors to your own preference. With stock Android, you're missing out on that. You're not going to get that, unfortunately. So this is just one of those things you need to bear in mind between the two operating systems, having the stock and then the different custom skin on there with MIUI. Now the speed of them, I'd have to comment that so far it seems a little bit faster on stock Android, I'd say, just some of the animations going through things. Now I'm not going to actually do one of those speed test things, because I just find them really irritating, to be honest, those kind of videos. I know I've done them in the past, but we'll notice too with the cameras, they are almost the same exact application. So when I launched them here, and you see, actually, look at that, MIUI came up faster. They are very similar, because they obviously had to go with this, because that's their camera software. They're tweaking the optimization that Xiaomi have done. But when you have a look at the settings menu, this is where you notice some differences. So under settings here, just to show you this, that we've got stock camera setup with the settings, so stock Android settings, and then it's still the MIUI, of course, that you'd expect. So you've got the same options, more or less, but there's a couple of things that are missing, like the scan, the QR codes doesn't seem to be on there if you needed that. Of course, there's apps on App Store that you can use for that, so you're not missing out on anything there. But even the pocket mode, things like that, you've got the watermark, of course, if you want to put that on there. That's something that Xiaomi's quite fond of, because these cameras, they are quite good cameras, really, for this type of phone. So that is why they do that there. So a lot of those options there, they're exactly the same. Now, in terms of the video, this is one I'm interested in. I'm going to have to test this out. So if I move over now into the video mode and just go through this now onto the options, you see we're going to get the same here. So image stabilization, video quality, 4K, Ultra HD, of course, image stabilization enabled. It's enabled here as well. And this is the same exact thing. No, actually, it's not on this model, the 4K. That's because it's just not enabled on the Redmi 5 Plus. If I was looking at the 6S X, we would have then, of course, 4K. Of course, the obvious differences here with the toggles at the top, your notifications and things, they're going to look a lot different there. So Xiaomi has crammed in more toggles, so you can get to them a lot quicker there and control the auto brightness there from the screen there with just the setting. And you can see here, of course, that, yeah, you have to fit them in, or you have to swipe to the side there. And it's just differences like this that are really just very minor, of course. Now, one thing it is missing from the move to stock Android is that we don't have the full screen gesture mode. So somehow they couldn't implement that, or they didn't want to, which is a shame. So we're always going to have to use the navigation keys, which is perfectly fine. That's what every other phone normally has anyway, but I'm so used to gestures, it would be nice to actually see that there. So what we do have just under the normal gestures is your typical one here. So double tapping the power button will launch the camera, and that's the only one we've got. So there is some good news and bad news for Netflix lovers out there. So yes, it's on the Play Store. Yes, you can install it, but it's only in standard definition, no HD. And that is because Xiaomi is still only supporting Widevine Level 3. So what does this jargon mean? Well, if this was Level 1, that would mean Netflix in HD, full HD. But there is a welcome change here that I did half expect, and that is we've got full proper Treble support. So this is great if you wanted to later on flash a ROM over, then you should be able to do this, unless of course the bootloader is locked. Well, it will be locked and you'll have to apply to unlock it with Xiaomi, which is normally the case, but they're really tightening down and changing on that, so that may possibly change in the future. Now, Mi Remote is on there, which is good, of course. That allows us to take advantage of that ion transmitter that I showed you at the beginning of the video. And why not? Let's take a peek at the screen in closer detail. So the gamma is pretty much spot on 2.0. It should be around 2.2, but hey, it's not too far off, so it's not bad. And this, of course, is just a phone with an IPS panel. And the viewing angles, well, you can see them here. It does shift out and darken a little bit at the side, as you'd expect. It's an IPS panel. There's no screen protector on this. It does not come with one pre-applied, which a lot of the Chinese tech does. And some real-world photos. So the screen does look really quite good. There's no complaints from me whatsoever with this panel. I think if I was being really fussy, maybe I'd just say I don't particularly like the rounded corners that much. But apart from that, this is it's a fantastic screen for the price of this phone. And to score here, so 130,000, this is not bad at all for a Snapdragon 660. And this is quite a bit faster than the old model. So the A1 has the Snapdragon 625, and that gets approximately 80 to 75, maybe a little bit higher, thousand in points. So this is about 50 to 40,000 higher, and you do notice this leap in performance. It's quite a bump up, and the cameras, of course, as well, are a lot better on this particular model. Internal storage speeds, eMMC 5.1 spec, very good here, so sequential read of 276, writes almost 200, and good random reads and writes. This is not going to be bottlenecking this mobile at all. So I went out for a little walk in the street and had a look at the GPS, and it's working perfectly fine, just like the 6X. So it's between 3 to 4 meters the accuracy. And 4G speeds, good results here, so 30 megabits per second download, 18 upload. No problems with the signal strength, the range as well, and all that. With wireless is also perfectly fine, exactly the same here as expected, same hardware as the 6X. So around 250 megabits per second is the maximum you're going to get on wireless AC, is 5G band. So we just got the one loudspeaker, as I pointed out at the start of the video, which is just on the bottom there. No secondary loudspeaker, unfortunately, front-facing one, the likes you get on other mobile phones like my Mi Max 2, the Mi Max 3. But the loudspeaker does sound good. I'll give you a sample of it now. So I'm about to head out now, take some photos, some video as well. Now, open camera with 4K electronic image stabilization is working because it does have, you can see right here, legacy. At least it's something. It's not full support, but legacy camera API 2 support. So I'm not showing you a bunch of fingerprints and smudges on the rear, no, but that's just what happens. What I do want to show you is the fingerprint reader on the back, okay? Just to mention it, that it works flawlessly, super quick to unlock, exactly like all the other Xiaomi phones since the Redmi Note 3, was it? I think that they started to really improve the fingerprint readers, and no problems. It's so fast and works every single time. But we don't have any face unlocking for some reason with this model. You get it on the 6X, but maybe Google just didn't want them to have it because it's not so secure. So this is a sample from the front-facing camera. You get 1080p max, exactly like the 6X. The quality is decent, it's good for the price, no complaints. The audio as well seems to be perfectly fine. So let's have a look now at the rear cameras. So this is 4K with the stock app. Even though I do have the image stabilization enabled, it doesn't seem to really do anything or work at all. So it's a little shaky, the footage, but it is sharp. The quality is good. It's just that stability, but luckily there is a solution to this, and just like the Mi 6X, and that is to use open camera. So you can see straight away the massive difference open camera makes with electronic image stabilization. The current bitrate is 60 megabits per second. If you hold it with two hands really still, it looks like it is almost on a tripod or you're using some sort of gimbal. And just panning around here, and I will walk down these steps just to show you that the stabilization is very, very good, and it's almost like the Google Pixel. You see how steady that is and how smooth. So front-facing camera in low light, you can see there's lots of grain and not a very good image. Now this is to be expected, very difficult conditions. I will turn on that front LED flash as well now. You see that's marginally better, but now my face is kind of orange, like an orange. Now sample of low light video, and you can see the focus does start to actually hunt, so it's pulsing in and out the whole time. This is one problem that it does have here. There's quite a lot of grain, and overall the image actually looks a lot brighter than what it actually really is. So there we go, guys. The Mi A2 is both 2 steps forward, 1 step back, because compared to the Mi A1, we've lost a few features here. We've lost the 3.5mm headphone jack and the micro SD card, which is a real shame. And I also feel that Xiaomi could have made it about a millimeter thicker, and they could have added a 4000 mAh battery. Would have been a little bit better, just like the Redmi Note 5. Now, apart from that, if you don't like MIUI, then this is clearly the phone to go for. But not only that, it has fantastic cameras for the price and category of this phone. So it's selling for around $229 US at the moment, at the time of this video. And normally that limits you to those MediaTek phones out there. And it's not a wonderful processor. Normally they have really bad cameras on them. So you're getting something just so much better. If you're someone that does not like these custom Chinese launches, you're worried about Chinese firmwares, you want the latest updates that are going to come through, this is meant to get Android P, Android 9, as soon as it comes out. It's supposed to be one of the first devices, according to Google, at the press conference I was at. So we'll see what happens there. So it's going to get the updates quick, and overall the performance is really good. Now I haven't shown you any gaming, so check out my Mi 6X for that. And also check out my comparisons for the camera. So you want to compare the Redmi Note 5 to this, basically this exact same camera, then check out my also comparison of that straight up here. And please do check my full review of the Mi 6X, and that covers a lot more detail. But overall, If you want stock Android, you want basically a Google Pixel on a budget, this is the phone to go for. Thank you so much for watching, and I do hope to see you back in the channel. Bye for now.